And in order to integrate APIs, what do we need to do? We need to install something called as Bubble API connector. So click on plugins here. You can kind of think of plugins as libraries. So basically you import a library and then it does the heavy lifting for you. Similarly, plugins are the same kind of thing where you just install the corresponding plugin and you pass in the relevant details and it will do the job for you. So since there are no plugins installed, this is empty. Let's click on add plugins. And without you even searching, the first plugin that is there is API connector from Bubble itself. So let's install that. If it's not available, just type API connector here. But let's install this. Okay, done. It shows installed. So once you click on done, this is the API connector that we installed, Bubble API connector. Click on add another API. And this is how it looks like. So we already created an API in Postman. If you remember, this is the post request and this is the text, etc. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing, but let's first give a name. So this is like a umbrella name for all the APIs that we use. So let's call it AI Writer itself. And underneath this, let's create the exact API call. So AI Writer is the top level API name for this, because if let's say if you have multiple API endpoints with sub endpoints, that's what you can create. You can create a high level API name and keep using that. Here we are just creating a high level API name AI Writer, and then we are creating our exact call. Let's call this paraphraser. And if you have more of this, you can just add another call, for example summarizer and grammar corrector, etc. Then this is post request, and use this as action, because whenever it is on button click we are going to call this, so it should be action. Now post request, let's give this here the URL that we created or whatever it is for you. Then add header. So basically if you have an authenticated API, then you need to add the authentication details here, but for simplicity I am not adding any authentication here. And this is the JSON body that you need to give. And what is our body? It is very simple, just JSON with text, and whatever is dynamic, for example here we need to enter this dynamically, so that dynamic part needs to go under bracket like this, and let's call it input text entered or some other value. Let's call it input text entered, and we can have some sample text to try out this API. Let's remove private from here. So we just have input text entered, and this is like a placeholder, so you can dynamically give values here. You will see that in a bit, but we just gave our post request and text, and this is the placeholder value. This is useful to initialize our call. Let's call initialize call. Internal server error. Let's see if we have anything incorrectly. So text paraphraser. Okay, so what I did was two things. Instead of keeping these in different lines, I just kept it in the same line like this. Secondly, looks like this input text needs to have colon quotes at the front and end, kind of like this. You need to include this text with quotes. So in case if you encounter any errors, just keep with quotes as it is. Now let's initialize the call. So once you initialize the call, you get back paraphrased, that is also text, because you get back this is the output. Just paraphrased is the one that contains the text. So initializing the call shows bubble what the expected output is. You can also see the raw data here, as you can see. Let's close this. So now that okay, let's initialize this again, and once it is initialized, let's click on save, because Bubble understands that this is the correct format. Now since we have this API connected and we have initialized this call, let's go back to our app. So we go to the design page, and once someone clicks on generate, click on start or edit workflow. So we are going to the workflow, and previously we were updating the text with input value directly. Now let's delete this, and whenever the button is clicked, we need to call the API. So element actions, plugins, you have AI writer paraphraser, that is what we created, and this is the input text, but we need to make this dynamic. So let's make this let's make this text inputs values, and also let's make it formatted as JSON safe, so that since we are passing it as JSON, so we have input text boxes value formatted as JSON safe. That is what this is. Now you need to go ahead and set your state, that is indexes input text, that is the variable that we created, the placeholder, with the value from previous step, that is step 1's paraphrase text. That's what this is. And let's see it in action. So previously we were directly appending the placeholder with input text. Now we have run it through a paraphraser and then appending that. Let's just preview. So every time you run, you need to refresh the page. Let's enter some raw text and see if it is summarized. Click on generate. Awesome. As you can see, we are getting the paraphrase text as output here. Again, Elon Musk has demonstrated his ability to move the digital currency market with his tweets. So click on generate again. Perfect. Elon Musk tweet continues to show. So this is looking great. So you can enter any text here, click on generate, and the paraphrase text is shown on the output. Let's see how we can make this little bit cleaner. So go to the design tab, and let's double click on this. So the text, we can make text as Open Sans 400, and let's make size as 18. So Open Sans 418, and let's go to layout. Okay, layout. Since the text is coming near the end, let's keep some padding. Let's say 20 pixel padding everywhere. Okay, great. So we have Open Sans 18. Let's do the same thing here. Open Sans 18, and layout is where you add padding of 10 pixel. Let's see if it's 10 or 20. Okay, it's 20 actually. So layout and 20. Preview again. Let's enter some text again. As you can see, now it is neatly formatted because you have left, right and bottom padding. Let's click on generate, and you can see even the summarized output is cleaner, that it is padded, so you can keep changing and adding things, CSS stuff, styling, etc. Now it looks a little bit cleaner.